Ted Cruz went on Fox News, and if you can even believe this, he spewed dishonesty. Shocking. But that's not exactly breaking news. The interesting thing about this clip that I'm going to show you, to me, has to do with what specifically he's being dishonest about. Because it's not just any normal thing. It's this particular policy subject that the GOP has created a narrative around. One policy action in regard to the IRS on the part of the Biden administration and Democrats who, in the Inflation Reduction Act, provided more funding to the IRS. I'll talk about the specifics as to, and as I've done in the past, why that is actually really good and in the interest of almost all Americans, except for those at the very top of the economic ladder. But see, Ted Cruz can't frame it that way. Big bad Biden has to be going after you, MAGA. And he has a narrative, the GOP has a narrative as to why this 87,000 IRS agents talking point is exactly what's going after conservatives. So I'll explain more as to what I mean on this. And the reason it's so interesting is because of how this should be just a really popular, uncontroversial action by Biden and Democrats, and we should have bipartisan support for it. But instead, a lot of voters believe what Ted Cruz is about to say in this clip, and it's really unfortunate, and it's representative of a larger effort that looks very much like this on a regular basis by Republicans when it comes to policy positions like this one. Take a look at this, and then we'll discuss further.
Acted. What happened subsequently is that you had Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi do a complete takeover of the federal government, and they went on a spending binge. And all of that was predominantly hard partisan spending, trillions and trillions of dollars of hard Democrat objectives, things like 87,000 new IRS agents. I've yet to find someone in Texas who wants 87,000 new IRS agents. They understand.
I'm in Texas. I want that.
And those agents are being brought in to harass and target the political enemies of the administration. That's not an economic objective. That's a political objective.
Well, we're being told that they are being brought in to bring more revenue, which we know we hit a record level in fiscal 22 for government revenue that was brought in. So talking about where that money goes is another.
I love how guilty Fox News hosts get whenever they have to fact check a Republican. Well, yeah, I mean, but yeah, that's not true. But
part of the conversation. I want to quickly.
But the more revenue. Sure. The more revenue is going to be from the people they target, which sadly under this administration has proven to be their political enemies.
Okay. And it does tend to.
The confidence in which he says that would lead one to believe that he's being honest. But you have to get that out of your head if you are feeling that way, because often people very almost impressively can say things that just aren't accurate in a confident tone of a voice. So I can't even get to right now what we have many times, especially recently in regard to the debt ceiling conversation, why it's so absurd that this is all based on Ted Cruz's narrative that Democrats are irresponsible spenders and the GOP is just trying to rein it in and all of that. It's similar to how they talk about the economy. We've gone through all of this in so many videos in the past. I'm not going to do it again as to how actually spending is more responsible under Democratic rule, and same thing with the economy doing better under Democrats. It's just not something that you can debate if you're basing that debate off of the facts. But that's where Ted Cruz goes wrong. But when it comes to this 87,000 IRS agents point, we've gone through it before, but it really is just a great example of and illustrates very effectively what the GOP is constantly doing. You take something that actually is in the interest of their constituents in large part, not their donors, but their constituents in large part. And then you have to figure out, how do I take this? And number one, because it's not what my donors like. And number two, because it's not what will make the Democrats look bad. I can't let the Democrats take this as a political win. How do I restructure this, reformat it in a talking point, in a dishonest talking point way that will make my voters be okay with the fact that I'm against something that actually they should support because it's in their interest? And so what they've settled in on with this is that Biden, by funding the IRS more and allowing for more employees to be hired, is preparing this army of agents to go after MAGA, to go after you. It's political persecution. And they're targeting people who are against the Biden regime. And Hunter Biden's laptop has the list of MAGA people that are going to be gone after. Okay, I haven't heard that line yet, but something like that, right? We've heard it a lot. So then if the dishonest talking point is there, I think you should get in the habit of asking, what is being covered for? What is the thing they're trying to distract you from? And in this case, it's that actually by funding the IRS more, and the explicit purpose, what Biden and Democrats have clearly outlined in putting forward this policy proposal, and now it's actually being implemented and it was successfully passed, again, in the Inflation Reduction Act, is to make sure those at the top of the economic ladder, the wealthiest in America who are tax cheats, are paying the amount they're supposed to be paying. So we're not even getting to a conversation right now about increasing tax rates. We're just saying if you have a lot of cash, you're going to have to pay the amount that you're supposed to be paying. That seems pretty reasonable, right? Okay, everyone should pay the amount that they're supposed to. People shouldn't be cheating out of their taxes. But if we're going to start somewhere, why not start with the people and get the taxes from those who are cheating out of taxes who happen to also be able to afford it? Very reasonable. That's the explicit purpose of this policy. And the other reason, and this is from the Treasury Department's website, that this is just good for all of us, is because of this. Thanks to the Inflation Reduction Act resources, the IRS delivered dramatically improved service in filing season 2023. The IRS achieved 87% level of service, exceeding Secretary of Treasury Janet L. Yellen's goal of 85%. The agency also answered 2 million more calls through live assistance, cut phone wait times to 4 minutes from 27 minutes, serving 100,000 more taxpayers in person, digitized 80 times more returns than in 2022 through the adoption of new scanning technology, cleared the backlog of unprocessed 2022, and it continues. But all of these things, new digital tools that are being implemented that will make our experience with the IRS better, which is great. And then to put a cherry on top, all this talk with the debt ceiling and them refusing to raise it is about fiscal responsibility, and we need to make sure that we're not taking on so much debt. By funding the IRS more, you think that's spending more money in the short term, but in the not too long term, we start making more money back because of the extra tax revenue that they're getting back from wealthy tax cheats than we even had to invest in the IRS in the first place. So by trying to repeal, as they wanted to do right when they got the majority in the House of Representatives, this particular policy item, they're actually making it to where we would lose tax revenue over the course of a number of years, because we would be allowing people at the top of our economic ladder to continue cheating on their taxes. So in every way, you look at this 100 different ways, and it's just good, except for the wealthy tax cheats. And before we discuss just a little bit further, here is Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen warning about this being an incorrect stance on the part of Republicans.
We're all concerned about deficits and fiscal responsibility, but deficits can be addressed both through changes in spending and also through changes in revenue. And the Republicans have taken that off the table. Something that greatly concerns me is that they have even been in favor of removing funding that's been provided to the Internal Revenue Service to crack down on tax fraud. We have an enormous gap between the taxes we're collecting and what we should be collecting if everyone paid the taxes that they really owe. And that's really a reflection of tax fraud. It amounts to an estimated $7 trillion over the next decade. So equipping the IRS with...
Right. Why not give the IRS the resources to get the tax revenue that we should be getting already? And that seems to be something that the fiscally responsible GOP would be in favor of. But as I will continue to repeat, the reason they distract with stuff like this is, and with talking points like this, is because Sure, they'll throw some red meat to their base on culture issues. Sure, they'll talk about woke this, woke that, I'm fighting the woke, I'm fighting the woke. But meanwhile, they're scamming their voters in a sense by working day after day with their actual actions, their actual, the leveraging of their power as a lawmaker works for and in the interest of their donors, the wealthy. And that is why they have to come up with dishonest ways to convince working class voters of theirs to continue supporting them. And whether it's saying the 87,000 IRS agents are coming for MAGA, or a drag queen is going to break into your home at any moment and start dancing in front of your child. I don't know. They have to come up with things to distract their voters so that they continue to vote for people like Ted Cruz, so he can continue to work for who he really cares about working for, which is those who, which are those who donate to his campaign, in large part being very wealthy individuals and corporations. Make sure you are subscribed to this YouTube channel. It is greatly appreciated.